The government faced immense obligations, including reparations demanded by the victorious powers, alongside the monumental task of rebuilding a war-weary nation. To meet these pressing demands, and without sufficient income from taxes, the difficult decision was made to print more and more money. Initially, this seemed like a way to manage the immediate crisis. But as the printing presses worked tirelessly, the sheer volume of paper currency, the Reichsmark, began to overwhelm the economy. The first cracks in public trust appeared subtly. People noticed that prices were rising, not slowly but steadily. What cost 1 mark in the morning might cost 2 by evening. This rapid increase in prices, known as inflation, began to eat away at the purchasing power of their money. The economic mechanics behind this rapid decline were, in essence, quite simple but devastating in effect. When there is far more money in circulation than there are goods and services available to buy, the value of each unit of currency diminishes. Businesses, facing ever-increasing costs for raw materials and wages, had to constantly raise their prices to stay afloat. Workers, in turn, demanded higher wages just to keep pace with the cost of basic necessities. This created a spiraling effect. More money was printed, prices went up, wages were demanded, prices went up again, and so on. The currency was not just inflating, it was rapidly devaluing against everything else. As the situation worsened, the sense of security that money typically provides began to unravel. People no longer trusted that the Reichsmark they held today would buy the same amount tomorrow. This lack of trust deeply destabilized daily life. Farmers became reluctant to sell their produce for paper money that might be worthless by the time they reached the market. Shops started demanding payment in advance or refused to stock certain goods, leading to severe shortages. Bartering, an ancient form of exchange, began to reappear in cities as people traded goods directly for goods, bypassing the collapsing currency entirely. The human impact of this period was profound and deeply personal. Imagine receiving your wages, sometimes twice a day, only to rush out immediately to spend them. A worker's wife might wait at the factory gates with a wheelbarrow to collect her husband's wages, then race to the market to buy groceries, knowing that an hour's delay could mean the difference between buying bread or being able to afford only a few potatoes. People carried stacks of banknotes, literally wheelbarrows full of money, just to buy a loaf of bread or a tram ticket. Savings that had been painstakingly built over decades, pensions, life insurance policies, nest eggs for retirement, were rendered utterly worthless. The elderly and those on fixed incomes suffered a particularly sharp loss of their financial security and dignity. The very fabric of society, which relies so heavily on the stable, predictable value of money, was under immense strain. Children played with bundles of high-denomination notes, stacking them like building blocks because they held no more value than ordinary paper. The breaking point arrived with a chilling clarity. By the autumn of 1923, the German Reichsmark had plummeted to unimaginable depths. A single US dollar was worth trillions of marks. Prices were being announced and changed multiple times a day. The currency had, in practical terms, become worth no more than the paper it was printed on. The economy was grinding to a halt, not because of a lack of goods, but because there was no reliable medium of exchange. The government finally recognized that the existing currency had lost all credibility and could no longer function. In November 1923, a new currency, the Rentenmark, was introduced, backed by real assets like land and industrial goods, marking a dramatic and necessary end to the hyperinflationary period. The old Reichsmark was declared effectively worthless. exchanged at an astronomical rate of 1 Rentenmark for 1 trillion old Reichsmarks. This period stands as a powerful reminder of the fundamental importance of trust in our financial systems. Money, at its core, is a promise. It is a symbol of value that we all agree to accept. When that collective trust is eroded, whether through uncontrolled currency issuance or other destabilizing factors, the consequences can be deeply damaging to individuals, communities, and the entire framework of an economy. The stability of a nation's currency is not merely an economic detail. It is a critical pillar supporting daily life, allowing people to plan, to save, and to believe in a predictable future. Its loss is a loss of security, a loss of dignity, and a profound lesson in the fragile yet vital nature of financial stability. The elderly, who had lived frugally their entire lives, found their life savings could no longer buy a single loaf of bread, leaving them utterly destitute and reliant on charity. The breaking point arrived with a chilling certainty. By the autumn of 1923, the German Reichsmark had reached a truly unfathomable state. A single US dollar was worth trillions of marks. Prices were updated not just hourly, but every few minutes. Children played with stacks of worthless banknotes, building castles and paper airplanes, because the paper itself had more utility than the numbers printed upon it.